Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Indie Alaska is a groundbreaking series that dives into the lives of people living in the last frontier. Each episode introduces you to colorful characters from around the state. Funding for Indie Alaska is provided in part by Alyeska Pipeline Service Company. Catch the latest episodes at alaskapublic.org.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone. Thanks for joining us. AKwx here for Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. On the warning advisory map here, we've got coastal or high surf advisories out for the Yukon Delta coast up in eastern Norton Sound, as well as St. Lawrence Island here in the Bering Strait coast. Those are out until 9 p.m. this evening, till which time some minor beach erosion is possible. And then the winter storm warnings for snow here for the Seward Peninsula and the Koyukuk, the Koyukuk Valley westward all the way out to the Noatak Valley and Kotzebue Sound for additional snows tonight, and winter storm warning also here for the Alaska Range for 48 inches more snow tonight with south winds 20 to 40 miles per hour. So that'll create some lower visibilities with blowing and drifting snow there. Also a winter storm warning for heavy snow continues for the Susitna Valley as well, with anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of snow expected to fall tonight, with the heaviest falling north of Talkeetna, otherwise Talkeetna and to the south just 1 to 3 inches. And then Fairbanks area there, winter weather advisory for 2 to 4 inches of snow tonight. And we're still hanging on to these winter weather advisories here for the Brooks Range and eastern North Slope area. The southeastern Brooks Range still in the winter storm warning for 2 to 4 or 6 inches of snow falling tonight. Otherwise, moving on to the satellite imagery, you can see the next big storm here developing south of Kamchatka Peninsula, moving northeastward there. A lot of cold air in over the Bering Sea from here Kamchatka Peninsula all the way across the Bering down into the Aleutians. That in the wake of the strong low that pulling northward there, that dragging and driving all that cold air out of Russia in across the area. That low center now up over the Bering Strait. And meantime, we'll see this system will bring storm force winds into the western and then central Aleutians during the day tomorrow and later on tonight. And for the eastern shot here, you can see clouds and moisture sliding in across the southeast coast to a much greater extent than I thought it was going to yesterday. Had some occasional light rain or sprinkles there, Sitka, and some flurries up around the Juneau area there, and all that moisture coming northward, kind of sliding up and over the ridge of high pressure aloft there and scooting down into the Panhandle. Better conditions on down to the south. And then a lot of moisture here coming northward, rain throughout the day. Kodiak Island, occasional rain from the North Gulf Coast. Cordova picking up about half an inch of rain in the last 24 hours. And then that old system weakening, slowly weakening, but earlier today still kicking up winds 20 to 40 miles per hour, with the main area of snow now up into this afternoon up to the northwest areas there. More snow showery back across the Seward Peninsula and St. Lawrence Island, and some breaks here across the Yukon Kuskokwim Delta area. Back out to the west, snow showers here moving eastward across the Pribilof Islands, and a trough bringing some scattered rain and snow showers to the eastern Aleutians there. But cold temperatures and snow showers, scattered snow showers here across the central and western Aleutians there. And then you can see the next batch of clouds associated with that big storm that's forecast to move in later tonight. On the chart today, again, a lot of moisture streaming from off the chart here all the way up into southern Alaska and really all the way up into the upper Yukon Valley, extending back to the west. King salmon king salmon over here picking up a little over an inch of rain in the last 24 hours. And areas up in the Susitna Valley, Talkeetna had about 6 to 10 inches of snow, with 19 on the ground now, and up in the Koyukuk Valley, 4 to 8 inches falling there, with Bettles carrying 24 inches as a snow depth this afternoon. And then things becoming more showery back to the west and southwest, low lifting up to the Bering Strait, slowly weakening here throughout the day, but still some periods of snow early on. Again, the main area of snow back up here to the north and northwest, and then again a little bit of moisture there sliding into the northern southeast coast. And otherwise, up along the Arctic coast, not too bad there, especially on the east side. Some fog around Barrow, and then you get into the increasing winds and snow as you head down toward Point Ley on into Cape Lisburne. And then a lot of snow showers here with the colder air spreading eastward and southward into the Aleutians and right up to the southwest coast. And for tonight, again, south to north flow continues, periods of rain, possibly becoming a little heavier here along the North Gulf Coast, south coast of the Kenai Peninsula. Wet conditions down across Kodiak Island, occasional rain up into northern Cook Inlet, Susitna Valley, southern Susitna Valley, kind of mixed up to the north until you get north of Talkeetna or up toward Chalitna. Then you're back into the snow, and a band of snow possibly extending up to the northeast along this frontal boundary. And again, the 2 to 4 inches in the forecast for the Fairbanks area tonight. And still a little bit of moisture possible, mixed precipitation, but quite light here, and with some clouds over the northern southeast coast over to about Yakutat, and then out here over the Bering Sea. Trough low pressure keeping snow showers in over the Pribilos, but high pressure continuing to develop here over the southwest interior. So look for partly to mostly cloudy skies here with basically dry conditions, isolated snow showers, Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians. And then the wind, rain, and snow on the increase out here over the western Aleutian areas there. And we'll see for tomorrow quite another intense system, mostly moving eastward here, south of the chain initially there, but that's going to spread storm force winds eastward to the central Aleutians, storm force northeasterlies back in towards Shimia on the back side of that system. Farther to the east, a pretty good day for the Fox Islands into the Alaska Peninsula tomorrow with light winds, mostly cloudy skies. Could be a little bit of clearing showing up there. And then this weak trough keeping the snow shower chances in over Nunivak Island and then back to the northwest there. Not too bad here from Togiak Bay up across the eastern Norton Sound areas. Dry conditions, maybe some breaks in the overcast there. And then that remains of that trough, actually the old frontal boundary, lifting along and just north of the Arctic coast there, taking most of the snow up onto the north, but still pretty breezy and with snow showers here from the Bering Strait up into the Chukchi Sea. Now rotate right on up into Kivalina, all the way up to Point Hope and those areas, with some moisture again for tomorrow in over the Tanana Valley, southern upper Yukon areas. And rain continues, heavy at times here along the Kenai Peninsula, back down into Kodiak Island. Got a low center approaching Sitkinak during the afternoon hours. So pretty brisk winds here along the North Gulf Coast. Still a risk of some light precipitation or moisture here over the northern panhandle, but should be mostly sunny, hopefully here, central and southern areas. That area high pressure sliding gradually off to the southeast there and weakening. And then not much change here over the next couple of days for Thanksgiving. Still have low pressure down here. Actually another center coming up off the from the south there to near Kodiak Island. Good southeast flow keeping wet conditions here all the way over from say Elfin Cove and actually Sitka. A little more precipitation into Yakutat and then heavier yet as you get over to Cordova, with Whittier and down to Seward's picking up some pretty good moisture in the form of rain. Wet conditions there for Kodiak Island, and then again a mixture along this warm front, mostly rain up into the Susitna Valley, and then could be a mixture of rain and snow there, or some kind of mixed precipitation possibilities there across the Tanana Valley and on into Canada. And that system out here to the west pushing eastward there right to east of Atka on Thursday afternoon. Front, gusty winds and rain for the Alaska Peninsula, showers to the eastern Aleutians, and then the cold air wrapping back in around to the west there, looking for gale force northerlies at least there, north to northwest winds. Colder temperatures out to the west, that's where the snowfall will be around the state. Could pick up a little bit of flurry conditions here over the western Arctic coastal areas and also over the eastern and northeast part of the state, but high pressure, light winds over the north slope with variably cloudy skies. Pretty good offshore flow here, so it'll be on the breezy side over the Yukon Delta coast up into the Norton Sound areas, Nunivak Island, but mostly fair VFR flying conditions there with, could see some clear skies out here right out into the Bering Sea there, variable clouds over the Bristol Bay area with most of the moisture staying off to the east. And then for temperatures today, 40 degrees this afternoon in Sitka, 41 at Klawock, otherwise mid to upper 30s over the central and southern southeast coast. Juneau had 32 this afternoon, 43 Middleton Island, mid 40s here across south central Alaska right up into the Palmer area there, 44 degrees, 36 at Talkeetna, 37 over at Gulkana. Valdizo at 32, big range here across the Tanana Valley with the eastern interior, 6 degrees at Northway, 30 degrees in Fairbanks, and back down to 17 at Tanana with Fort Yukon 7 above, minus 15 at Arctic Village, minus 9 at Umiat, 9 above at Anatuvik, and along the Arctic coast near or a little above 0 all the way over to Point Lay with 8 degrees, 28 at Point Hope, and mid-30s there at, I believe that's Buckland, up to 35, Shishmaref at 28, 32 in Nome, Golovin at 37, mostly in the 30s here across all of the southwest interior, 37 in McGrath, and out to the southwest, mid to upper 30s for the Pribilofs, 30 degrees up at Gamble, 38 there at Cape Newenham, upper 30s to lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula, and then mostly in the 30s out to the west to freezing at Shimia. Lows for tonight, right around 30 out there at Shimia and Attu, upper 20s to lower 30s here for the central Aleutians, and then a little cooler to the north, still below 0 up there around Arctic Village, otherwise staying above 0 for the Arctic coast. And again with mild southerly flow temperatures in the upper 30s to lower 40s here, south central Alaska down to Kodiak Island. Upper 20s to mid 30s for the Panhandle. High for tomorrow there, mostly in the mid 30s to lower 40s here for the southeast coast. Again, upper 30s to lower 40s from Kodiak Island right up into south central Alaska, back across Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula. Cooler conditions in the 20s here in the west, and teens up over the northeast interior. For the flying weather, again, some patches of marginal VFR possible over the northern southeast coast again, like you saw today, and IFR Kodiak Island with one band extending northward along the Alaska Range, and then more IFR sliding up into Prince William Sound, and then right up to the central Alaska Range there. Could be some IFR up along the Brooks Range as well. VFR here along the coast and the Alaska Peninsula. Actually, eastern Bering Sea are forecasting VFR mostly for tomorrow. Big area IFR spreading eastward here into the central Aleutians. Passes Anatuvik, marginal VFR. Adigan, the same forecast. Lake Clark and Merrill, occasionally IFR tomorrow, or mostly IFR, as will be rainy. For windy, again, lowest conditions on the southern approach. And then for Isabel, again, IFR south, better conditions to the north. Mentasta, though, should be hopefully VFR. Tanita, VFR with marginal conditions on the eastern entrance. Portage looking IFR. And Chilkoot and White, occasionally marginal. Looking at the freezing levels here, quite a gradient now over the southeast coast, up to 8,000 feet there over Prince of Wales Island, 2,000 feet again up into south central Alaska, and then cold air pushing well to the south out to the west. A lot of moisture, occasional widespread moderate rime icing here from Kodiak Island right up into south central Alaska and the North Gulf Coast, and more icing pushing into the central Aleutians from west to east. Upper level wind flow chart, big area of upper high pressure here, southeast flow, 70 to 140 knots right through the central interior areas, something like that. And then that next big storm coming into the Aleutians with wind and rain. And then for 9,000 feet, good south to north flow, as I've mentioned here, right up to the North Gulf Coast, taking a turn off to the northeast there, 30 to 35 knots. Light winds over the southern panhandle, but up to 45 knots there around Skagway. And then southwest flow here right up across Norton Sound, 25 to 30 knots. 3,000 foot winds, south to north again into south central Alaska, then north to south here across the southeast Bering Sea and the Alaska Peninsula. Light and variable through this area, but 25 knot winds over the upper Tanana Valley and 40-mile country. Pretty light winds over the Panhandle with high pressure, and then those strong winds southeast 55 to 60 knots into the Aleutians. And with that could be some severe turbulence spreading in toward the Adak-Atka areas. Otherwise, pretty good there for the eastern Aleutians. Moderate chop right up into south central Alaska, and some lingering bumpy conditions there for the northwest coast. And after the segment, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Water, the signature of planet Earth, essential for all life. Indifferent to our daily lives and commitments, with its many forms and ever-changing intensity, water can abruptly alter the way we live. We need water to survive, but we also need to be respectful of its power. Just as water gives life, it can take it away. For example, when there's too much, or when there's not enough. We need to understand how water works and how it will affect us. This kind of work has a name: hydrology. It means the study of water as it moves through the environment. The scientists who do this are called hydrologists. We're going to show you the different ways hydrologists study the water cycle and how important this work is to each of us. Rivers of all shapes and sizes divide our nation's landscape. Rivers are utilized for everything from drinking water to transportation to recreation. So it's important for hydrologists to be able to determine or forecast how rivers will react to different conditions. Hydrologists can predict a few hours or days into the future the changing river levels, the speed at which the water moves, and whether an area will be threatened by flooding. Hydrologists make river level forecasts, which are very important for emergency managers, engineers, and others who have the responsibility to protect citizens from the effects of floods. River predictions also help reservoir managers determine how much water to keep or release for such uses as hydroelectric power generation, irrigation, recreation, and flood control. Rivers include a main channel, where the water normally flows, and floodplains, the low-lying area that can get flooded, along either or both sides of the main channel. The boundaries between the main channel and the floodplain are called riverbanks. Floodplains are sometimes used for farming and industry, or for parks and playgrounds. People even live on floodplains.
The height of the water in a river, or its level, depends on the shape and slope of the river channel and on how fast the water is flowing. Rain and melted snow drain into small streams, which make their way to the river, increasing its level. When too much rain or snow melt reaches the river, water can spill over the riverbanks, causing a flood.
The key elements in predicting floods are knowledge of how much water is in a river, how much more water to expect from rainfall and snowmelt, and the ability to track the water as it moves downstream.
In the United States, measurements are taken at over 7,000 river locations. In the National Weather Service, hydrologists at river forecast centers use sophisticated computer technology to combine these measurements of rainfall, snow, and river levels. This helps them predict future river levels and provides the basis for issuing river flood warnings.
Flood warning for eastern Clark County until 11.
In order for hydrologists to predict river levels, they need to know where, when, and how much rain falls. Too much will cause floods. Rainfall occurs when tiny water particles in clouds grow into large drops, too heavy to be suspended by rising air currents. Rain can fall in small areas of less than a mile, or broad areas many hundreds of miles across.
Determining the amount of rainfall over an area is like solving a big jigsaw puzzle without knowing what the picture is supposed to look like when you're done. Hydrologists use tools like rain gauges, weather radar, and satellites to figure out which pieces of the puzzle go where.
In order to measure how much rain has fallen, The National Weather Service uses over 10,000 rain gauges. This one has a scale which is used to determine the amount of rain fallen over a given period of time. Another type of rain gauge, the tipping bucket, sends out electronic signals as rain falls into the collector that tips when a fixed amount of water has been collected. To ensure timely forecasts, most rain gauges are equipped with radio transmitters, which immediately send measurements to forecast offices.
Because rainfall can vary widely from place to place, knowing how much it is raining at just the gauge locations does not necessarily tell us how much it may be raining somewhere else. Because of this large variability, hydrologists use other tools to fill in the blanks. This is where weather radar comes in.
Using weather radar can be compared to using a flashlight to find something in the dark. When the beam of light from a flashlight illuminates an object, some of the light is reflected back and you can see the object. Instead of light, radar sends out a radio signal. Water, in the form of raindrops, hail, sleet, or snowflakes, also referred to as precipitation, reflects the energy transmitted by radar. The longer it takes to receive the return signal, the farther the precipitation is from the radar. The stronger the return signal, usually the more precipitation.
Satellites may also be used to help estimate rainfall amounts, particularly in areas where radar beams can be blocked by mountains. Hey, I'm done.
More than half of North America experiences snowfall at some time during the year, and in many northern areas, snowfall is most of the yearly precipitation. Snow is crystallized frozen water. When snow accumulates, there is a large supply of frozen water just waiting to melt and run into rivers. Most people think of snowfall in terms of the depth of snow. For example, weather announcers on TV report inches of snowfall. Hydrologists think about snowfall in terms of how much water it contains. Snow can be very dry and powdery, with only about an inch of water for every 10 to 20 inches of snow. It can also be very wet and slushy, with about an inch of water for every 2 inches of snow.
We're interested in snow water equivalent, which is how much water you would have in the snow if you were to melt it. We need this information in order to predict how much water will run off into rivers and streams when the snow melts, and also whether or not that snow melt will lead to flooding. We also need to know the snow water equivalent in order to determine how much water to retain in reservoirs during the winter and spring, and in order to make that water last through the summer and fall.
The snow hydrologists who gather this information use many kinds of equipment to make measurements of snow water equivalent.
Rain gauges, anemometer,
telemetry installation right here,
gamma detector,
solar panel,
precipitation collector,
pressure transducers, the temperature detector, temperature probe box,
air temperature sensor.
We've got 52 inches plus of water content stored out in the snowpack.
Welcome back. For the south coast, east winds at 15 tomorrow. Otherwise, small craft advisories on the north coast as southeast winds pick up to 25 knots. Light and variable conditions over the southern or the central inside waters to south 15 for Lynn Canal. And then on Thursday, we've got gales here for most of the coastline there, 35 to 40 knots out of the southeast. Small craft advisories for Clarence Strait and small craft advisories also for Lynn Canal. For the North Gulf Coast, southeast winds, 35 knots with 14 to 16 foot seas. Pretty brisk conditions there in Prince William Sound, southeast 30. Lighter for Cook Inlet, but small craft advisories there south of the Forelands in across Kamishak Bay. Gales for Kodiak Island, but Shelikof Strait east of 20. Outlook for Thursday, small craft advisories here at Kodiak Island develop into a gale for the North Gulf Coast at 40 knots. No change for Prince William Sound. Pretty windy conditions for the next couple of days, and small craft advisories again south of the Forelands to Kamishak Bay. Bristol Bay, north 25 tomorrow, north 20 knots here in the Alaska Peninsula, picks up to a gale there on the Pacific side with northerly gales extending up to Sitkinak. For Thursday, southeast 35 here for the Pacific side of the peninsula, otherwise east 30 to the north. Bristol Bay, northeast at 20 and southwest 20, Sitkinak to Chignik. And then for the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, southeast increasing 20 to 30 knots there in the afternoon. Storm force winds advancing eastward to the central Aleutians and then becoming northeast at 50 knots back to the west. And then for Thursday, those become northwest. Pretty strong gale here right into the central Aleutian areas. Basically north winds here, 35 to 40 knots, and gales east to southeast, 35 to 40 knots for the Fox Islands. And for the southwest coast, southwest 25 for St. Lawrence Island, otherwise northeast 15 south of Nunivak Island. Light westerlies for the Pribilof, southeast 20 there for St. Matthew Island. Those become northeast at 35. Easterly gales for the Pribilof Islands and northeast 40 knots there from Nunivak Island northward, then diminishing to 25 knots for St. Lawrence Island. Easterlies 20 knots about sum it up for all of the Arctic coasts there, becoming northeast from Cape Beaufort down to Cape Thompson, and then southwest 30 there across the Chukchi Sea into Kotzebue Sound. Westerly winds, small craft advisories in store for that area on Thursday with heavy freezing spray right up to Cape Beaufort. Northeast 15 on the west side, westerlies at 15 on the east side. For tonight, a lot of moisture streaming northward here, keeps it wet across south central Alaska and the North Gulf Coast, Kodiak Island. And so winter storm warning tonight for the Susitna Valley for more snow. And then watching the next big storm come into the Aleutians tomorrow with storm force winds and strong gales. Strong winds here for the North Gulf Coast and rain again becoming mixed as you move inland, and then still some snow up in the Tanana Valley. Basically dry for the southeast coast except for the northern areas, and diminishing snow showers up over the northwest. And then for Thursday, another storm here comes up toward Kodiak Island. Wet conditions, continued mild southeasterly flow right up to the coastline, and then the big storm edges eastward the next day there.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.